Hi everybody, good morning and welcome to our first ever video lesson. I hope wala maging problema sa internet connection. Sana naririnig niyo ako ng maigi. So if there is any problem that you will see on our video lesson, please comment or say it to our group chat. But before anything else, I would like to introduce myself to everybody. So congratulations kasi tapos na kayo sa research too. So today, alam ko naman na nagkaroon na kayo ng idea doon sa inyong qualitative research, which is the practical research one, kung anong pagkakaiba ng qualitative at quantitative research. So tutunan niyo rin sa qualitative research na merong iba't ibang klase ng qualitative research and also different kinds of quantitative research. So nalaman niyo that qualitative research usually ay may diagram, may text, may words. On the other hand, ang quantitative research naman ay merong mga numbers, it involves statistics, and the likes. So ngayon, for our week 1, we are going to talk about the characteristics, the strengths and weaknesses, and the kinds of quantitative research. It is important na bago tayo magsimula sa ating quantitative research is alam muna natin ano nga ba ang isang quantitative research at ano yung mga characteristic na bumubuo sa isang quantitative research at kung paano tayo magtatanong sa ating quantitative research. So, this is the definition of the quantitative research. So, it use number. So, lagi niyo tatandaan kapag quantitative research, number. So, in stating generalizations about a given problem or inquiry to qualitative research that Hardy uses, so that's actually a comparison. So, sa qualitative research daw, hindi masyadong gumagamit or hindi talaga gumagamit ng statistical treatment in stating generalization. On the other hand, sa quantitative research, ito ay gumagamit ng mga statistical tools and treatments para magkaroon tayo ng kasagutan sa isang problem or inquiry natin sa ating research. So ngayon, ano yung characteristic ng quantitative research? Isa-isahin natin yan. So ang una is objective. So hindi ito yung yung mga statement of the problem. That's not how you say objective. So when you say objective, the result is not based on your personal thing. I will give a specific example. For example, ito yung pinakamalapit. May remote. For example, sabihin ko ang remote ay merong mga buttons na 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So that's being objective because you're saying what is on the remote. Pero pag sinabi mo na ayaw mong gamitin tong remote na to kasi masyado siyang malaki, so that's not being objective. So that's the meaning of objective on the quantitative research. Meaning you're basing all the things that you have on the data that you have. So not on the feelings that you have. Yan, no? I-set aside muna natin yung mga feelings natin when it comes to the quantitative research. So, pangalawang characteristic ay clearly ang nade-define natin clearly yung ating mga research outcomes. Bakit? Kasi mas napapakita natin yung mga outcomes natin gamit yung figures, yung tables, yung graphs, yung trends, relationship, differences among the variables. Compared to qualitative research, words yung ginagamit natin doon. So, dito, it's more on figures, mga virtuals yung mga ginagamit natin. So that when you can see the graphs, the figures is nakikita na agad natin, ito pala yung outcome ng ating research. So that's one of the characteristic of quantitative research. Number 3, structured research instruments. So anong ibig sabihin niya? Ito ay isang klase ng instrument na ginagamit natin for the data collection. Thus, ine-ensure natin na yung accuracy, reliability, and validity of the data is still there. So, paano siya natin ma-visualize? So, yung research instrument na gagamitin natin, for example, meron tayong sample size na 150 people. So, if you will interview them, for example, i-interview mo sila isa-isa, napakatrabaho niya. That's why, doon na pumapasok yung structured research instrument. Sa quantitative research, you could do an instrument that you will give to our respondents para mas makuha natin yung data na kailangan natin na hindi tayo masyadong mahihirapan kasi hindi na natin sila kailangang interviewin. Kailangan na lang natin ng instrument, which is commonly the survey questionnaire, and then sasagutan nila and then ibabalik sa atin so that we could see the data na nilagay nila. So that's the meaning of the structured research instrument. The number 4, ang isa sa mga characteristic is numerical in data. Of course, compared to qualitative research, si qualitative research kasi words. Ito, numerical lahat ng nakukuha natin na data. So it could be gender. You could designate the female to 0 or the male to 1 so that you can have it as number among others. So that is called for measurable characteristic of the population. We always have to make it a number so that we could analyze it and use statistical treatments for our data. The number 5 characteristic is that the larger or it has a large sample size. So, kapag kasi mas malaki yung sample size na kinukuha natin, mas reliable siya. Yun yung iniisip natin, di ba? Like for example, ngayon sa COVID-19, nung nagkaroon ng vaccine, mas pinaniniwalaan natin yung mas maraming samples na nagamit, di ba? Bakit? Para daw, mas ma-prevent natin yung mga biases natin. Kasi sa ating large sample size, sila yung population, yung ating sample, meron tayong population, for example, our population is the whole Philippines. Ang ating sample size ay hindi pwedeng galing lamang sa Luzon. Dapat ang ating sample size ay scattered at binibigyan natin yung ating yung ating buong population ng chance para mapili sila. So that's why isa sa mga characteristic ng ating quantitative research is pagkakaroon ng large sample size. Kasi pagkakaroon ng malaking sample size means that your data could be more reliable. So that's the other characteristic. And then next to that is the replication. So ang ibig sabihin ng replication ay pwede nating i-verify yung ating findings. For example, dito sa area na to, sabi dito, mas magagaling daw yung lalaki, for example, sa math. Tignan naman natin sa ibang lugar kasi gusto kong ma-verify Kasi babae ako, I wanted to see, kung talagang mas magaling ba talaga or pwede nating ma-generalize na mas magaling yung mga lalaki kaysa sa babae sa math. So that's how replication works. You wanted to verify findings, you want to reinforce the findings. So yun yung isa sa mga characteristic ng quantitative research. Number 7 is that future outcomes. So nape-predict ng ating quantitative research, yung isa sa mga characteristic niya is nakaka-predict siya ng future outcomes. Like for example, if alam natin na sa ating data, dito na pumapasok yung 1 out of 10. So doon nakikita na 1 out of 10 pala ng ating mga respondents ay may ganitong side effect, for example, sa vaccine. So yun ay isang generalization pero hindi mo naman kinuha sa lahat ng population. So nakapag-predict siya ng outcome because of the data na nakuha niya from the population. So that's the future outcome, meaning for the characteristic of quantitative research. So for that, 7 yung napag-usapan natin na characteristic ng quantitative research. Ngayon, dadako naman tayo sa strengths. Ano nga ba ang kalakasan ng isang quantitative research? Number 1, it is objective. Dahil iwalay ang iyong damdamin, ang iyong saloobin, Ibig sabihin, mas nagiging honest tayo, na iiwasan natin yung bias sa ating mga results sa quantitative research. Pangalawa, gumagamit tayo ng statistical techniques. Ibig sabihin, nakakatulong ito para yung data natin na makukuha ay mas maging okay yung result. So ibig sabihin, if you have a certain data at gumamit ka ng statistical technique, makikita mo dito kung may relationship ba, kung may differences ba, kung yung isang bagay ba ay nakaka-apekto sa isang bagay. So that's one of the strength of quantitative research. Pangatlo is numerical yung data niya, kaya mas madali siya ngayon i-analyze. Kasi di ba, nung kayo na qualitative research, I don't know if you encounter having transcription, so doon kasi iniisa-isa mo, babasahin mo siya and then hahanapin mo ng themes, i-code mo, etc. Dito, if you have the data, you can put it and then analyze it using different statistical techniques and also using different technologies like SPSS, Excel, so that you can compute. And then number 4, it is replicable. You can always validate. Unlike sa qualitative research, experiences, most of the time experiences kasi yun, narratives ng mga tao. So the experience of other person is unlikely. So maliit yung chance na parehas din yung experience ng ibang tao sa isang tao. Kaya hindi tayo pwedeng mag-generalize. And also, yung pagre-replicate natin ay hindi katulad ng quantitative research wherein you can verify. Sa qualitative research kasi, you will have different experiences. So that's how it works. And then next to that, of course, pag-usapan naman natin ngayon, yung weaknesses naman ng quantitative research. So number 1, dahil nga meron tayong characteristic which is larger ang sample size natin, it requires also a large number of respondents. And because of that, mas marami yung kakausapin nating tao, mas marami bibigyan natin ng ating survey questionnaire. So kaya, isa siya na tinitignan na weakness ng quantitative research. Pangalawa, dahil you have a large number of respondents, it is possibly costly. Ito ay applicable ng face-to-face kasi they are photocopying, they are having costs sa pagpunta sa iba-ibang lugar. But now, excuse me, ngayon kasi you can send it via email, via messenger. So I guess this one will not be a problem on our distance learning Kasi nga ay hindi naman tayo gagastos na sa mga photocopy and also sa mga ating transportation. And then number 3, many information are difficult to gather using structured research instruments. So kung ang kalakasan naman ng qualitative research is that nagkakaroon sila ng in-depth understanding on a certain thing. Tayo naman sa quantitative research is para tayo nakakulong doon sa ating structured research instrument. Kung ano lang nandun, we cannot have information beyond that. Unless, combinean mo ng qualitative research at magiging mixed method siya. Pero quantitative research alone cannot go beyond what is inside the structured research instrument, which makes it a weakness of a quantitative research. The next to that, if hindi mo natama yung pagkuha ng data, mali rin yung paggawa mo, or hindi accurate or incomplete yung iyong questionnaires, nagkakaroon ng problema. And also yung statistical treatment na ginamit mo is not accurate doon sa iyong data. So magkakaroon ng problem sa results ng ating quantitative research. So I hope that is clear about the strengths and weaknesses of quantitative research. So now we're going to move on to the kinds of quantitative research. May iba-iba tayong klase. Ngayon pag-uusapan natin yung 6 na klase ng quantitative research. Number 1 is descriptive research. I will not read the whole definition. You can read that on your own, but I will like you to have the emphasis on the word describe. So kapag descriptive research, nagde-describe tayo ng isang population, phenomenon sa ating study. So sabi dito, yung method daw is focused more on what, not the why, na bakit. So for example, you wanted to describe the study habit of senior high school students. So you are concerned with what are the study habits of the students, not why is that the study habit of our students. So that's one example of a descriptive research. The next is correlation research. So sa correlation research naman, ito isang klase ng pagtingin sa mga variables, whether the variables have a relationship to one another. Like for example, meron relationship ba ang pagkatuto ng bata sa kanilang social economic status? So titingnan natin kung may relationship sila and then you will explain why is that so. So sa correlational research, kung sa descriptive, you will have the word describe. Sa correlational research, it is on the relationship, okay? Relationship between our variables. Next is the comparative research. So ito po ay pagkukumpara ng mga variables na meron tayo. Kaya siya comparative. So comparing 2 or more things. Like for example, you wanted to compare if what is the behavior of students on online and face-to-face learning. So that's a kind of a comparative research. So 2 different approaches, and then you wanted to see the learning style, or you wanted to see the learning of students, and whatever you wanted to see to compare the 2. So that's an example of a comparative research. Next, Causalcomparative or quasi-experimental or quasi-experimental. So what's the difference between the Causalcomparative and comparative? Sa Causalcomparative, it is seeking to find relationship between independent variables, but what's unique about this is that it is checking on the cause and effect relationship of the 2 variables. That's the difference between the relationship and or the correlation and the comparative. I will discuss it again. Sa correlation, relationship of 2 variables. Sa comparative, you are comparing variables. Sa causal comparative, you are checking the cause and effect relationship of the variables to each other, whether they are independent or dependent variables. Next to that is the experimental research. So, ito yung more likely ginagamit kapag meron tayong mga scientific experiments, mga ganyan. So, ang tatandaan mo naman dito mga words ay experiment, controlled environment. Kasi dito, sa ating experimental research, meron tayong tinatawag na control group and experimental group. Sa control group, ito yung wala tayong nilagay. And then sa experimental group, dito na natin in-apply yung gusto natin i-apply. For example, titignan natin whether a certain bacteria could affect the immune system. So, syempre, ayaw naman natin gamitin yung mga tao dyan, di ba? So, for example, ang control group mo ay itong animal na to, for example. Titignan mo anong effect sa kanya. And then, yung isang animal of the same kind, ay wala kang gagawin. So, that's kind of experimental research. And on our situation ngayon, sa COVID-19, yan, sabi nga, di ba, pinag-experimentuhan tayo. Charot. So, bago tayo binigyan ng vaccine is nagkaroon ng experimental research wherein they are testing different kinds of vaccines or ano ba, protein kinemerlu or RNA, etc. So that's kind of an experimental research. You have control group and experimental group, and then you will see how your experiment works on a certain area or environment na ginawa natin. And then the last one is the evaluation research, and it is a kind of an assessment research wherein you are evaluating a social program, a standard, etc. Pero meron tayong tinatawag dito na rule. So dapat yung ating ina-assess or ina-evaluate ay nakatatlong taon na. For example, the K-12, ilang taon na siya. So if it is more than 3 years, we are allowed to have the evaluation research. So ano pa, the distance learning, we cannot assess pa the distance learning kasi we are only on our second year of the distance learning. So dapat daw kasi we are giving leeway like 3 years so that we could have more data on our evaluation research. So those are the kinds of the quantitative research. I hope you learned something on our first week. And if you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask me questions on the characteristics, kinds, and strength and weaknesses of quantitative research. And by that, I hope everybody will have a safe and safe environment and also safe life, no, now that we are encountering our pandemic. So with that, thank you very much, everybody, and see you on our next one. Bye.